Bob Unger, grew up in Washington Heights and now resides in Great Neck. Bob is an attorney from Fordham Law School and obtained his undergraduate degree from CUNY John Jay College. He was a WMCA talk show host and for three years, and an author of 2 books, America Does Not Owe You a Living and Tune In to Success. He is a board member of Managut Yehudit. All right, I got it close. In Israel and America, and an associate publisher for the New York Guardian, which also became, I guess, Newsmax, and former general counsel for New York State Senator Frank Padovan, a former professional singer and motivational speaker, and he's a registered Republican, and this is his first run for political office.
Good evening, my name is Bob Unger, and according to the Department of Homeland Insecurity, I am a right-wing extremist. The appellation right-wing extremist has given a bad name to extremist. I like my wife to be extremely faithful. Liberals like their wives to be moderately faithful. I think extremism in the defense of truth and liberty is no vice, and moderation in the defense of truth and liberty is certainly no virtue. When Bill Clinton, Yamach Shemo V'Zichro, which means may his memory be obliterated, when he appeared at the Democratic Convention, he said at the Democratic Convention that he dedicates his nomination to his mentor at Georgetown University, Professor Carroll Quigley. Now that's very unusual for a presidential candidate to say. So because the media doesn't do its job, I had to do its job. And I went out and I looked up Carroll Quigley. He wrote a book. This is Clinton's mentor, called Hope and Change. Sound familiar? Okay? Here's what he said, Tragedy and Hope. I'm sorry, you're right. Here's what he says. The argument that the 2 parties should represent opposed ideals and policies, one perhaps of the right and the other of the left, is a foolish idea acceptable only to doctrinaire and academic thinkers. Instead, the 2 parties should be almost identical, so that the American people can throw the rascals out at any election without leading to any profound or extensive shifts in policy. And that's what we have here. George Bush greased the skids for Obama. He bailed out the Wall Street banks exactly the way Obama has done. I want to be a real choice, not just an echo. Thank you.
Are there any issues that you feel are unique to the 5th Congressional District?
Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution enumerates the powers of the Congress. And the 10th Amendment says any power not specifically given to the federal government is left to the people and the states respectively. A congressman's job is not to create jobs. Government creates no jobs. Congressmen create no jobs. It's the congressman's job to abide by the Constitution of the United States, tell the government to take a hike, and let people be free to create jobs in the free market. Okay? We have to reassert states' rights, and we have to tell Washington, basically, to go stick it. That's the bottom line.
What would you specifically suggest to improve the unemployment rate and to create new jobs?
Once again, Congress is not the solution. Congress is the problem. If you recall, when Bush was planning the first bailout, he said, we have to bail out the banks because it'll get them lending again to the small businessman. Then Obama comes in and he says, we have to bail out the banks. We'll get them lending again. I have a man over here who was just telling me nobody's lending. You know why nobody's lending? Because the Federal Reserve, which by the way is not federal, it's as federal as Federal Express, and it has no reserves. The Federal Reserve is telling the banks to keep all their money with the Fed, and the Fed is paying them interest so that they don't lend it out. This is the biggest Madoff scheme that has ever been perpetrated. As a matter of fact, the way America's run, Madoff should be made the president. And we might as well be honest and run it the right way.
Third question. In your opinion, what were the defects in the administration's health care plan? And what changes would you suggest to improve it?
Once again, we get back to the Constitution. You know, that piece of paper that we put our hand on the Bible to uphold? If you look at Article 1, Section 8, health care is not one of the enumerated powers. So it doesn't matter whether I think it's a good plan or a bad plan. The government has no power to stick their nose into people's health care. Get the government out of the way. Do what the Constitution said is permissible for the government to do. Everything else, people will be free from taxes and they'll have money for their own health care. Period. End of story.
What makes you best equipped to beat Gary Ackerman? And how have you prepared to challenge Ackerman? And what kind of support have you received so far?
The question is what special attributes I have. Actually, I don't have to have any. Because people much smarter than me built the blueprint of this country, the founding fathers of this country. So all I have to do is follow their blueprint. Any idiot who follows their blueprint would be an excellent congressman. So I don't need any talents. It's already been done for me. The problem is we threw out the blueprint and we substituted the Communist Manifesto for the Constitution. Bring back the Constitution, and I don't need any talent whatsoever.
How can we better protect our country from terrorism? And please touch upon a nuclear Iran.
You know, when the nation had an attack occur on 9/11, it makes sense that if your country is under attack, the first thing you would do is immediately shut the borders. Because after all, what is the purpose of the military? To protect the perimeter of a nation. Not to be running around the world, putting their nose in other people's business, but to protect the United States of America. But you see, that's not what the government has in mind. David Rockefeller just wrote his autobiography. Here's what he says. Listen to what is about to be done to you. This is page 405. For more than a century, extremists at either end of the political spectrum have seized upon incidents to attack the Rockefeller family. Some believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. One world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I am proud of it. He's proud of it. You want one world government? That's where you're heading.
For the closing statement, we'll go in reverse order. So, Bob Unger, up first.
This election is not going to be about me or anybody else. If anyone stands for the principles that I believe in, I would drop out in 1 second and support them. Because if you think it's one of my great dreams to have to associate every day with Barney Frank and Gerald Nadler, this is not my idea of a good time. So, we have to have people who will stand on principle. I'm going to leave you with the words of who I started with, Carol Quigley. The powers of financial capitalism had another far-reaching aim, nothing less than to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the world. This system would be controlled in a feudalist fashion by the central banks of the world, acting in concert by secret agreement and in frequent private meetings. We just had a meeting in Australia of all the bankers. There were men with AK-47s surrounding the entire area. Nobody was allowed near them. Now, if you're doing something good, do you need an AK-47? Do you need darkness? Evil operates in darkness. Goodness can operate in the light.
Bob Unger, ladies and gentlemen.